This is New England Soccer Weekly with Tom Quinlan, Nick Giuliano, and Mike DeSilva on 790 The Score.
Oh boy! Wow. Leagues Cup, magical, unforgettable, and a tournament that I hope never, ever goes away. Very interesting couple of games for your New England Revolution. We'll get to that, but the story of Leagues Cup has been the arrival and the showcase of one Lionel Messi. We'll talk about that today. Mexico getting their absolute asses kicked by everybody in MLS for the most part. Tigres had a nice win the other night versus Portland. So we'll go through all of that. Mike, Nick, guys, how are you?
What's up? I mean, Tom seems very excited for a tournament. Just 7 days ago, he said doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean,
in the grand scheme of things, it does not matter. But
if you go back and watch and listen to the show, exactly what we said, that Mike and I said they were going to use this for, you just saw that last night. This is the bridge to get back to MLS.
And to stay healthy and to stay active. You know, you're bringing in some new players. You've had some new players come in recently.
Well, it helps that Mark Anthony K. I thought Mark Anthony K has done a nice job getting himself acclimated to this team. Polster's been out for the last couple of games. Apparently, he had food poisoning, which I had it too.
We've done this on this show. That is
brutal.
Yes.
Let's not go down the food poisoning slippery slope again.
What was it for you again? I forget.
It was diarrhea.
No, we don't want to know the symptoms.
No.
What's wrong with this guy?
I'm talking about the food.
Bad chicken.
Yeah, bad chicken. Okay. That was bad chicken for me. By the way, if that was your only, it should be everywhere. It shouldn't be just one place.
It was everywhere.
No, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know where you mean.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a, let's just say this. It's a two-way street, if you will.
Yes.
It's not just a one.
It should not be. So maybe you didn't have food poisoning.
Yeah,
maybe it's something else.
I lost about 5 pounds in a couple of days. So.
Oh damn.
Yeah. Bad chicken for me. What was it? Oh, I had clam too.
Yeah, seafood. I've had it before. Bad Thai food.
There's no better way to welcome in Andy. What about you,
Andy? Yeah, what about you? Have had food poisoning?
Andy Deossa from Yahoo Sports going to join the shenanigans this week. He's down in Miami, Florida today. You ever get really bad food poisoning where you just start diarrheaing everywhere?
I can't say I have, but I have been a fan of the show for a long time, and this might be one of the best opens ever, so I appreciate that.
I love that, man. We appreciate that from you. And like Tom said, you're down south, you're down in FLA. You're usually living out west and doing a lot of stuff over there covering all of MLS, but checking out LAFC and the Galaxy. What was that environment like? You were at the game.
I'm going to save the Miami stuff for a little bit later. I want to get to the Rev stuff first.
We prepared. This was prepped before.
Oh, clearly it was prepared. Way to completely cut me off.
Why can't he just ask the question?
Because we've led with Messi the last couple of weeks. Let's get to the Revs. We're New England Soccer Week.
All right,
start with that.
It's going to be one of those this week. Buckle up.
Pause, please.
It's going to be one of those.
Andy, just to give you a little background here, Tom also came on to my morning show this morning and cut me off 4 times there too. So this was one of those days.
Andy, I also walked into this room about 5 minutes ago. There were no lights on. I didn't think anyone was in here, and this man to my left was sleeping.
Yeah,
so I don't know what's happening right now.
We've been doing it all year.
Typical day at the office over there, man.
Huh?
It's a typical day at the office over there.
That's all it is. All right, Tom, go ahead. Lead off with the Revs.
All right. Start off. You lose in penalties the other night versus the New York Red Bulls. That finished as in a 0-0 tie. Probably the ugliest game I think we've seen them play on the road this year. Outside of LAFC?
Yeah, I mean, close. It's night and day, the last 2 performances we saw. That first game, it really didn't look like they were into it at all. There was a lot of mistakes that I saw, especially in the back on the right side.
Well, let me ask you this.
That I haven't really seen all season. The penalty kicks... A couple of them are pretty rough. A guy I'm going to talk highly about today. I'm not really sure I've ever seen a PK like that. But then they followed up with that performance last night, so I don't know.
But most of that game, the Red Bull game, and Andy, I don't know if you watched any of that Red Bull New England game for Leagues Cup on Saturday night, going back to the first Revs Leagues Cup game. You know, as much as you want to blame Vrioni for not burying it right in front of the net, the PK, the Revs offense was just stagnant that entire night.
They looked like a completely
The Red Bull
different
were
team.
playing with a certain type of press that the Revs could not do anything to set up any type of offense. Like, the team you don't want to play in the playoffs is the New York Red Bulls.
Well, I said this, Andy, a few weeks ago. I know you covered this league too when New England played the Red Bulls, because of where they were on the table, because they don't really have that flashy name. People are kind of underestimating them, and they're looking just at the record. But this is actually a pretty good team collectively.
I agree. And Tom says a great thing. Like when you play a team like that, you know it's going to be physically exhausting. You know it's going to be demanding. I mean, comparing a first Leagues Cup game to like a playoff game, that's obviously night and day. But the thing about the Red Bull is like you know where you're going to get. Every coach knows what this team is going to do. The formula is out there, and there's no surprise. And it is kind of shocking how the Revs could go from being, a team that doesn't look so good offensively to a team that looks like one of the best in the league offensively against San Luis. So, yeah, it is interesting because the Red Bulls are always going to be a tough matchup. And I think Bruce said it, like they're going to give San Luis a tough game, and people might be overlooking them as they typically do in MLS, but it's the same Red Bull team we've been seeing for years and kind of the same DNA.
I mean, the offense for sure was night and day. But to me, it was a collective. There really wasn't as much midfield play because they weren't finding heel as much out of the back, and that's where a lot of the things that I saw stemmed from that back line that's been so good this year. Again, they didn't give up any goals. That's the ultimate thing that you don't want to do. But just that the cohesive play that we've seen from this team wasn't there against New York. It was definitely there last night.
Yeah, but I think that also comes down to something that has been a trend forever in MLS and certainly this year. Going on the road in this league and pulling off a win is really hard. And getting out on the front foot is really hard as well. But to have this Revs team who came off the week before dominating DC United 4-0 at home to a week later not being able to produce anything offensively, I think it's an indictment on, Carlos, Gustavo, and Bobby Wood that game. Gustavo went completely missing against that Red Bull team. So the good thing is that they play Wednesday night. You knew that a bounce-back performance was coming at home. And you also kind of get the feeling that a bounce-back performance was coming because all these Mexican teams cannot play in MLS right now. If we were all watching MLS teams down in Liga MX, that'd probably be another thing. We'll get to that topic in a second. But versus San Luis on Wednesday night, the Revs get a 5-1 win. Giacomo Vrioni gets a hattie.
Mike.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know.
I forgot the hot dogs.
The table's pretty bare.
I'm going to be honest. Andy,
so let's make this clear, too. This is one hot dog out.
All right, Andy, let me ask your take on this because you were witnessing, everything going down.
Andy was in the social media fray last night.
He was in there on Twitter last night, seeing it all go down. I think I understand the details of the bet. Essentially was one hot dog for one goal, right? That's the trade-off. Isn't it? If Tom's an entertainer, if Tom is in this business, doesn't he give the people what they want and just go a dog for every goal, not just the one dog for the first goal?
I think so. After what he's done against this player that hasn't even been given a chance to play yet, absolutely.
What do you think, Andy? Are we on point here?
I agree, man. Tom, give the people what they want. It's pretty simple math to me, man.
No.
I mean, we had the interactions, the engagements, the likes on the tweet. People are rooting for you, man.
I think that it could have been up to 5 hot dogs today because you have the 3 goals. So you have the own goal that would have been his. He was in the right spot. And he's the man of the match last night.
Well, he would have been offsides on that own goal if he would have.
No, not true. Yes, man of the match last night.
Bonus dog for man of the match.
I mean, come on.
It really should be at least 4 dogs. I mean, give the people what they want. What are we doing here? Are we doing a show?
I DM'd Greg Johnstone because we were talking about something else. And then I told him to take Revs to win last night.
Yeah.
Because Tommy Betts was out last night.
Tommy Betts is out every night.
And then Revs over 2.5 goals. Both of those hit, by the way. And then he goes, Vrioni anytime goal scorer. Fire emoji. And I'll bet you a hot dog. A hot dog. That's a singular.
Again, I go back to my original point. That is the bet. I understand that. He went on to score 3. If you are a man of the people, as you like to proclaim, then you got to give them what they want. They want more dogs.
One hot dog. Moving forward,
a hot dog per goal.
If I was to do a hot dog bet,
mark this.
Yeah, we're gonna make a hot dog bet every week.
I like it.
Hey, listen. You got to give him. You got to give him credit for getting 3 goals in, what should have been 45 minutes. I mean, he was offsides on that.
You got to give him credit. Yeah, you just gotta.
But here's the thing: It's a
What is your
Liga
deal?
MX team
Why are you so
playing
what's
on
wrong
turf.
with you? Why are
this
you so
team
hold
was
on.
awful. They're not good. They came up here and they got their asses kicked, and they're going to get destroyed on Saturday versus the New York Red Bulls. They're not good.
Okay, so Andy, let's talk soccer, right? So this is something that we've been talking about on this show for months now, and take how bad the opponent is out of it, and that it's not an MLS play. Let's just go with the play on the field last night. You have the triangle of Rioni, of Bo, and of Heel. And to me, when those three are on the field, the offense clicks more because of the spacing, because of the awareness of those players with each other, and we just haven't seen them in a long spurts of time at all throughout the season. So is that something that you're seeing from your end too, with this triangle up top, the way it's constituted? And should Bruce moving forward be with this?
Versus Red Bulls.
Tom, can you let our guest talk? Damn it!
I mean,
I'm gonna
what are
mute
you
you
doing
somehow
today?
in real life.
No, for sure. And Tom, Tom has talked about it about earlier in the season, how Rioni needs to play up to that DP tag, and the back and forth with Bruce saying, it's not important, and he's not on the field because he shouldn't be on the field at the moment, or whatever the case may be. But when it comes down to MLS teams, that is the case. You need your DPs on the field, and you need them to perform. And we saw it where Carlos Hill, whenever he's on the pitch, he's do what he does. He's amazing. He creates that space. He's an epic player. But you see how much it has an effect on Rioni, how much it has an effect on Bo. Even like that goal that Gustavo scores, he's kind of just like standing at the edge of the box. But as soon as that ball hits his foot, like, he has no hesitation. He knows where it's going. He knows where he's going to put it. It's an amazing goal. And I think that you start seeing that confidence build. And it is true to, what Bruce had been saying earlier in the year, like, little by little, you are going to see that confidence grow. And I'm sure, because of like the Adam Books and stuff and how things kind of unfolded for the Revs, you wanted those instant results. You're like, okay, we need to see Rioni have an effect. But there's teams around the league that have their DPs that have also been pretty bad. And I think that we're kind of starting to see a little bit of a change now, where it's like, we see that this could work. And you're right. When those three are on the field, it's going to seem a lot easier, especially when you have a midfield, which I think Mark Anthony Kaye and Ian Harkes, being newcomers, is like a huge part of how that works, because the offensive third is not going to be what it is if the midfield is not solid. And those are two players that are going to be able to contribute a lot in terms of, I think, calmness more than anything, which is something people may not talk about. They're very confident on the ball, and that's going to help, because you need that midfield to kind of bolster whatever's happening. So, yeah, I think that all in all, you have those three DPs on the field. They're going to perform more often than not, but it's the same story every time. You need to see a little bit more consistent, where it's not like one off game. And then, like you said, maybe Gustavo Bo has a no-show, and then you're thinking about, okay, let's throw Bobby Wood back out there. All great to have options, but you do need that going on a consistent basis for a team who, you've got to remember, is in a great standing in the East, and is in a run to make some noise when the season starts again.
Well, you mentioned Gustavo Bo too, and I think a player like him has helped with Rioni on the field, because the defense is accounting for him every time because of the runs that he's making off the ball. And what you saw early in the game before Gustavo Bo scored is an involved Bo is the best Bo. That's what I put in our group text last night. He was into it because he's got more space, because he's open more, because they're not accounting just for him. So, again, you're spot on with Heel. I think Rioni and Bo and Heel, it's just going to make this team go even more.
Definitely, I agree on that point for sure. And another thing, like you mentioned, right? It's a pressure thing, because right now it's a tournament, and it's funny looking at a lot of teams around the league where some teams I don't think we're ever going to take this tournament seriously. And then maybe if you lose that first game, you're kind of already behind the ball, because you're like, well, if we lose another game, we're kind of done. And then we could just go back to our regular training and get ready for the season. Whereas like the Revs are like, okay, I do like the point for the draw. Like, that rule is pretty cool to me, kind of like the hockey shootout rule, where it's like, we're not going to have a draw. We're just going to have a PK shootout and move on. And now they're in a position where like, okay, they could win this group. Then they're looking forward and see like who their possible opponent might be. And it's like, we could kind of make a little bit of a run. And once again, for a team like the Revs, who is on this trophy hunt, who has this window right now, that's pretty big to gain that confidence in a few games and be like, hey, man, we could be looking at these teams and starting to make a run and be in the end of this. So I think it's something that they should take seriously. And if you have performances like that, I don't see why not.
I definitely thought, that after that first game, it was more like the first part of what Andrew just said, but they definitely turned it around last night for whatever reason.
It's an opportunity to sharpen everybody too, and it's I think it's kind of nice and cool to have this opportunity to play a teams from a different league, in a league that's, you know, a borderline rival. You know, I know there's some between the CCL and all that stuff. There's always been kind of back and forths between the MLS and Liga MX. So I think it's cool. I've been enjoying it. The games have felt competitive. The lineups have been what you expect to see them on a MLS match day. So it's not like you're getting, you know, a Revolutions 2 squad out there.
Yeah, what happened in the last, whatever that last cup was? That's
the Open Cup is what you saw.
You.
They weren't even televised games. You had to go find them on some, you know, some stream from a guy's Twitch account or something.
And for the most part, you know,
probably Tom out there with his phone.
And for the most part, MLS teams have done really well against Liga MX teams. Like, obviously now you're starting to see the Giants of Mexico starting to make the fray here. We're recording on a Thursday, so Guadalajara and Club America will be playing tonight. And you would imagine, well, Guadalajara versus Cincinnati, that's almost a group of death, because especially after that result the other night between Cincinnati and Sporting Kansas City, Cincinnati needs a win tonight, or at least points, right? So it's going to be very interesting to see how Pat Noonan's club comes out up against Guadalajara. And especially, too, because freaking Sporting Kansas City goes down a man. And you would have thought that would have been a layup for a team that hasn't lost at home this year. And you needed Lucho Acosta at the death on a penalty to get you into penalty. So tonight will be interesting.
Who'd you have in that game?
Cincinnati.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then, but by and large, I mean, Mexican teams are having a really, really hard time against a lot of these MLS clubs. And a lot of it is, you know, MLS clubs are hosting these Mexican teams. Like, so for example, Tijuana was the home team, or even last night, San Luis was the home team versus the New England Revolution. Tijuana is the home team versus Philadelphia. Now, if these games are in Tijuana and San Luis, might be a different result. But I think, you know, Liga MX has been really put behind the 8 ball here by sending all these teams up here to go play at MLS venues. And when you got to go play on a stadium like Turf, you know, if you're San Luis, it's probably why you get the scoreline of 5-1 with Giacomo Rione getting a hat trick. What's your thoughts on that?
The last part was not necessary.
Absolutely.
I tweeted yesterday. I said, "This is great. Liga MX is going to think Giacomo Rione is the best striker in MLS, and it's all par for the course." But no, I agree. And I don't know if you guys saw, Leon had travel issues. They were up in Vancouver playing, and then they were going down to the Galaxy, and they had airplane issues. They had to sleep at the airport. And I'm like, this is the damn champion of the region, and this is happening to them. So I think it puts these Mexican teams at a disadvantage off rip. But at the same time, like Tom mentions, you have some of these traditional giants who are going to play you hard wherever they go. Like Tigres and Portland put on a hell of a game. Leon, like I said, is the champion of the region. They're going to play well. So
Monterrey, and 19-round penalty shootout last weekend, too, versus Vancouver.
Right. And then Monterrey goes to RSL, who has been probably the hottest team in MLS for a few months now, and just completely manhandles them. So it gives the MLS teams an advantage, which is probably something that Don Garber loves. But I did sit down with Garber and Mikel Arriola before the tournament started to kind of talk about that type of stuff. And he's like, we just want these games to be a little more meaningful. But obviously travel, if you include going to Mexico, would be just a headache. But at the same time, like you mentioned, you kind of know what you're getting into, right? Like, you know, hey, some of these stadiums are different. Like some of these climates might be different. Like down in Florida, it's just disgustingly hot. So I'm sure Cruz Azul was not feeling that first game against Miami. But at the end of the day, those are the dynamics of what they wanted this tournament to be. So they have to be ready for that. But I think the later you see this tournament advance, it's going to be pretty cool, to me at least, to see how much of support these Mexican teams have, because Leon in LA is almost like a home game for them. I mean, those stadiums get packed with green shirts. Tigre, America, Chivas, like they have these huge fan bases in the United States, which is something that both Garber and Arriola really wanted to kind of promote in this tournament. And you're going to see that the later we go, how much support they have. So I think it's pretty cool, man.
Is this a tournament that they're going to rotate to? Like, will this be in Mexico next year?
I don't see that happening. No. I don't see that happening. I think because of the dynamics of the schedule, where it's like in the middle of the season for MLS and trying to, you know, stop everything. And then you have to remember, next year, the calendar is even more crowded because you have Copa America is going to be in the States. Like right now it's competing with the Women's World Cup, but the Women's World Cup is all the way in Australia. Like next year, they have a whole different tournament that they have to deal with that's going to be on this soil. So it's tough, man. But I know they're trying to figure out what to do, but I highly doubt, because at the end of the day, it's all about revenue. And I don't think that MLS and Liga MX and CONCACAF could foresee a lot of Mexican stadiums being full to the point that some of these MLS stadiums are, if you have a tournament like that out there.
Yeah, these MLS stadiums are full. Like, that's something that, it's a good point you bring it up. You watch games from around the country. I don't see a ticket drop. Last night, Montreal, pretty much a sellout versus DC United. Good turnout for the Revs for a midweek game.
Yeah, a midweek non-league game.
Midweek non-league game.
And the next one, when it's home, there'll be more people there because of the performance stages.
And it'll be on a weekend,
Yeah.
So Minnesota, they're back at home tonight versus Chicago. That should be a good crowd. Cincinnati had a decent crowd. So the crowds have been showing up for this. And we'll talk about Miami in a little bit. But it is certainly a tournament that I think we all underestimated the entertainment value and the quality that we'd get from it. I think, we're sort of stuck in this cycle of just doing the same thing over and over again, and nobody really ever questions it. So to have something new infused here, it's kind of needed for the sport in this country from a club level, right? Because it's like
a big turnaround from last week, Mike.
It's week to week. Week to week. We got short-term memory here. That's all we got.
It goes back to what Andy was saying before. The way in which these teams are taking this seriously, and the way in which MLS is actually doing a really good job in competing against Liga MX keeps you entertained. If Liga MX came in here and just starting roughshod over everybody, and you have guys from Union 2 or Revs 2.
Well, there is incentive at the end of this cup.
There is more incentive too.
Right.
So it's like, but if I'm saying is, if you didn't have what you have here, the incentive to watch wouldn't be as much. I'm staying up and I'm going to watch Cincinnati and Guadalajara tonight. Not from a betting standpoint, but from a standpoint that it's actually been really
entertaining to watch.
No, I agree. Yes.
Every game.
And you probably throw a few quid on it too.
I probably might throw 10 or 20 on that one.
Whatever.
Parlay that up with Minnesota beating Chicago and Nashville over Toluca.
Did you hit last night?
I came inches away.
Gambler. By the way, bet responsibly. 1-800-GAMBLER.
Yeah.
No one has ever said that gambling before on parlays. No one.
The thing that
Philadelphia to win, got that. Philadelphia to be winning at halftime, got that. Philadelphia and to have over a goal and a half, got that. Revs to win, got that. Revs to be winning at halftime, got that. Revs over 2.5 goals, got that. Montreal screws me.
Well, what happened Tuesday night?
Oh no, the Almada PK.
When we talk about Miami, we'll talk about the Almada PK.
That was tough.
But to put a bow on everything with the Revs, it has been a pretty wild week up here from a soccering standpoint, but also off the field. Probably the most devastating news that we've had up here in a really long time. And you absolutely have your heart break for the Knighton family with the passing of Olivia Knighton in a tragic boating accident in South Carolina. For somebody that's gone through a lot these last 2 years with losing Paul Mariner and now his daughter, I can only imagine what Brad Knighton's going through. All we're going to say here is that we're praying for them. Brad has always been very good to me when I've interviewed him in the past, and when I've talked to him off to the side in the past. Just a wonderful human being, and not to bring the mood down, but I think because we recorded before the news came out last weekend, it is worth mentioning that the Revs did honor Olivia on Wednesday night at Gillette, and they're probably going to do it for the rest of the year.
Yeah,
so
I would assume so.
if there are any... I know there's a GoFundMe page up right now for the Knighton family that's circulating on social media. Just make sure it's all legit, obviously. But in any way, we can help here. We obviously would love to do that.
Of course, send our love, man.
So we'll stop here. We'll take a break. And when we come back, we will talk about the experience that Andy had covering Lionel Messi in a pink jersey.
That's right.
All right, New England Soccer Weekly is back, and as we're recording here, people want to know how, quote, Three Dog Tommy Quinlan is doing today.
That is a new nickname, and that is the title of the podcast.
I find new ways to disappoint myself on a regular basis. I am very disappointed in myself today by forgetting to bring in the hot
but
dogs.
it's his bet. He needs to get the hot dogs.
But it's so enjoyable for me and for our supporters and our listeners and viewers out there that I dropped the ball. But I will say this: I am guaranteeing Tommy will be eating hot dogs before this weekend.
So that would mean tomorrow at 7 a.m.
You're gonna be eating hot dogs, brother.
Oh, that's
all right.
And we're gonna film it.
Okay.
3 hot dogs.
Actually, I'm actually happy I'm not going to be here for this.
3 hot dogs,
I
one
was
hot dog.
I was borderline. I was just trying to
No,
think
you
about.
almost have to be here for it because
I'm
you
not
have to be here
coming
for
in
the
at 7.
spectacle.
First off, I will not be here at 7 a.m. And second
No,
off,
but we should do it on a day when you're going to be here for the spectacle.
I'm excited that we're not doing it here because I was just trying to envision myself trying to break soccer down with Andy while he's like inhaling a hot dog. It just doesn't make. It's not good.
I mean, we could literally stop this. I could run down the street to the mobile gas station, get one of those stupid hot dogs off of the rolling gas grill.
Why stop it? Just go do it, and we'll keep going.
You want to do that?
If I listen, a lot of moving parts here. I'm promising hot dog, 3 Dog
I
Tommy.
can be down
tomorrow.
the road and back in 10 minutes.
No, that's not true. 3 Dog Tommy tomorrow.
Oh, you want to bet on it?
You want to bet another hot dog on it?
Anyways.
By the way, I don't bet. I would take that bet. I tack another hot dog on there. 10 minutes.
10 minutes to go right down the road to the mobile station from where we
And
are.
back and be in the seat?
Yes.
Grab me one while you're there. I'll have a hot dog.
I will not.
All right. Anyways, Messi, 2 games into his Major League Soccering career. Well, I guess he hasn't really played a Major League Soccer game yet. He's played for a Major League Soccer team.
Correct.
So 2 games into his American club soccer career. And Lionel Messi has scored
He's tied with Giacomo Veroni right now.
3 goals, 1 assist.
3 goals, 1 assist.
Yeah, he's tied in League's Cup.
And one
with Giacomo
very
Veroni.
much him
yes.
being a part of the play. A hockey assist, I think.
He was a part of every
Yep.
single goal for Miami these last 2 games here. And here's what automatically sticks out to me about this Messi thing. I've never seen this guy smile like that. There is something that, like, in his personality where when you look at Messi, I feel like I'm looking at like a lethal killer.
Well,
like,
because that's what he is.
but he actually
Not literally, but like figuratively on the field. Like he was a guy who went about his business, you know, and I've been very vocal, the Ronaldo-Messi rivalry on Portuguese, but like as a neutral soccer fan, you watch this guy and your mind is blown. I don't know, going on almost 20 years now. Like he just does things that nobody's ever done and may never see again. But he also cared very much about that. Like he only cared. He didn't. You know, he wasn't always in the paparazzi, and he wasn't always seen out and doing the flashy things. And you know, he had his endorsements, obviously, when you're that level. But we're seeing a side of Messi, you know, before we get into the soccer side of it and the experience Andy had down there witnessing it in person. We're seeing a side of him that we've really never seen before. It's the celebrity side. And he's a very humble person, and to see him signing autographs and taking selfies and doing all these stuff, maybe those are things he was doing in Spain and in France and, you know, any of the international tournaments, but seeing it here in the States where like celebrity is king and queen, it's pretty cool to see. Like it's awesome.
he's dapping up LeBron James. LeBron James, is
DJ
giving him-
Khaled and Diddy and
I mean, I don't know if
David
you guys.
Beckham.
I don't know if you noticed it on Tuesday night. You saw Diddy, you saw DJ Khaled, you saw Camila Cabello, and then I think I saw Andy.
Andy was in that crew, yeah.
I think he was right there in that box down there.
yeah.
What was that like, bro?
It's an experience, man. That's the only way I can really put it. And you see it from afar, and I'm like, man, I have to go check this out. It's so funny because it's Miami, quote unquote. It is Fort Lauderdale, but it does still have that aura of like, this is, you know, the South Beach swag. Like to have somebody like LeBron and Serena Williams right there. And the funny thing about those boxes is like they're right on the field. So it's like they're as close as possible. But yeah, from the beginning to the end, like, so Messi, a lot of people like, oh, you know, is he going to be like a one-off? Like, is he going to have his own transportation? And I think what he's been trying to do is just make sure he's the best teammate he could be. And you've seen it on the field. And I think off the field it's happening a lot more where like he's walking in with the team before the game. Coming in I'm assuming on a bus. They all come in together. And as soon as that happens, it's like, okay, he's here. Like everything changes from that moment on. When they get out there for warm-ups, I don't even know how to describe how funny it is. Like when he runs to one side of the field, they're like giving him a standing ovation. Like he hasn't even done anything but take a few steps to, get warmed up. But from that point on, it's just like people yelling and, obviously trying to swarm and record. But once that game starts, it's like Mike says, it's the best way you could put it. It's literally Messi doing what he's always done. And I think it's hilarious that a lot of the MLS haters are like, oh, well, this is showing how bad the league is. Like, first of all, he's only played one MLS team. Let's get that clear. The first team he played was a Mexican team. But second of all, Messi was doing this in Europe. Messi was doing this for years in Barcelona, where you see him streaking up the field and 7 people are chasing him and can't catch him. Like, this is just part of his regular routine because he's that damn good. So it's just, that part is funny. But the fact that he got off to such a quick start in that second game, it's almost like a dream, because you have to remember, right? This guy was just on vacation. The whole conversation before he actually was on the field was how much time is he going to play? How ready is he going to be? And I talked to Tata Martino after the game, and he said he told me he wanted more minutes. Now, I don't know what more minutes meant, so I just let him do what he wanted to do, and then he told me when he was done. And I'm like, this dude played 78 minutes in his second game after being in China with Argentina, then in the Bahamas, then down in Argentina. Like, it's actually insane. And that first goal is what was advertised. It's Sergio Busquets picking his head up and seeing Messi and having way too much space, because for some reason Atlanta did not press him, did not put any pressure, and it delivers exactly what you would expect from these two world-class players. And it's almost like, it is shocking, but it's almost like, are we that surprised that this guy is being this good already? Like, I don't think we should be.
That's the thing. I feel like that's what's the biggest thing that I've been seeing. First of all, the people that are constantly poking holes, like, yeah, at the end of the day, you cover soccer, you cover this league, we cover soccer, we watch all the games. Of course, our jobs is to look at things and try to break them down and understand, why did this happen? Why didn't this happen? But I feel like only in MLS is it people talking down on the league as a whole because of a mistake that one defense made, or, oh, he's only doing. It's like, why is it that people go to that? Like, why is it here in America when they're doing everything they can? And it's not just a celebrity. They're building the academies. Why is it here that we can't have nice things? We can't just be happy.
It's the hater mentality that's always followed MLS for some reason. And it's probably never going to go away. But you know what's funny? Like, the people that are hating are now actually watching because it's Messi, which is the change in what it was before. Because prior to, people might have never seen an Atlanta game, but us following and covering the league, Atlanta's been bad defensively all year. Remember when they played the Revs? It was like a 3-3, whatever it was. Like, they lead goals. They've been leaking goals all year. So the fact that Miami put 4 on them is not surprising to anybody.
Well, the other thing, too, is that it takes away from I know this is just what social media does anyway, so we can't really go that far.
They'll find something negative.
But Messi is in talks for being the best player of all time, or at least up there, right? So regardless of where he's playing, what country he's playing, what city he's playing in, when he steps on the field, the other 10 people around him are all going to elevate and be better because he's on there. And the team he's playing against is going to look worse. He's that good of a player. And to your point, Andy, I think the people that are having that take, they don't understand the magnitude of this player now and career-wise.
Sure, and I think the beautiful part about it is, like, aside from just him being a great on the field, you can see how much things have changed in terms of how he conducts himself. And I think you see it a little bit with Argentina in the last few years, where it always was revolving around him. And in his career, he's probably been able to just plug and go because he's played alongside great players his whole life. But now he's playing again with guys that he probably never knew before he got to Miami.
Like Robert Taylor.
Hey, man, you do this, you do that. I want the ball here. I want you to make these runs while the game is going on. And that's not typical for a person of that caliber. Like, I mean, I hate bringing Zlatan into the equation because he is a very one-off, but Zlatan could care less about what the hell his teammates were doing when he got there. Yeah. It's like, this is about me. And Messi, because of his personality, because how humble he is, he wants it to be about the collective. Like Tom says, somebody like Robert Taylor has just become like a world-class player aside from him. And it's like, that's what you're talking about. Like, everybody's going to benefit from him as long as they're doing what they need to do. And Tata brought up a good point. Like, Messi is the way he is now because he has a weight lifted off his shoulder. He finally won trophies with Argentina. He finally won the one thing that in his life was probably the biggest crutch and the biggest stress for him. That's out the way now. Now he's literally enjoying what he's doing, which is a part of the reason why he decided to come to MLS, because he knows eyes are going to be on it, opposed to maybe if he went to the Saudi Arabian League. He knows the money's coming in really nicely, which is why you see David Beckham getting teary-eyed because he's watching his millions stack up in front of his face. Yeah. At the end of the day, he's enjoying the moment. Like, his family's right there. After the game, I was in the press box after like post-game stuff, and I look on the field. The field's completely empty, and it's just Messi's kids and Busquets' kids playing soccer like an hour after the game ended. And I'm like, this is the type of stuff that people like, oh, family this, family that. That's the type of stuff that it's like, it's a beautiful experience for all of them. And shit, 2 games in, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, and the thing is the dream, like, that to me seems like it's like the dream situation for him, because like you said, the monkey's off his back. He has nothing else to prove. Why is it that people feel the need for like this legacy thing, right? Because they're like, oh, he should still be in Europe. It's sad that he's in MLS. It's sad that he's doing this. Everything you just explained is exactly why he's here. Why is it in this sport? It's just soccer in general, I feel like, because obviously
you said it, we can't have nice things.
Professional sports in the United States, there are no other leagues to go to if you're playing here. Like, nobody, is going to say, oh, some bench player in the NBA is playing basketball in Turkey, they're not going to be like, oh my God, he's washed. Why isn't he playing the NBA? Nobody's going to care about them. But for some reason, they're like, oh, he's doing this in MLS. Why couldn't he go back to, take a pay cut to go to Barca and prove something there? Like, why is it that they constantly feel the need to poke at the legacy?
Yeah, it's a good point. And I think, honestly, if I have to say, I probably would assume that Barca was his first choice. I think he really wanted to go back and kind of have that like farewell there, but the financial situation just wasn't that. And at the end of the day, like, you have to remember, these guys are not eternal. Like, we've seen players get to a certain level and decline and then be like, we're going to hang it up. Messi still has some years in him. He might as well enjoy them. He might as well be able to do it how he wants to. I think that he knows that the pressure is going to be a little less here, but it's also not going to be like, he's just a guy. Like, it's Messi. Like, he's a guy anywhere he goes. It was going to be that. But I used to say it with a lot of athletes, even LeBron James at this point, even Tom Brady prior to him retiring, like, sometimes there's just nothing left to prove, right? Like, when you get to a certain stature, anything you do is going to be picked apart because you've already reached these mountaintops and have been great for so many years. What does Messi have left to prove? This team could not make the playoffs. This team could lose in the next game and be knocked out of the tournament. This team could lose in U.S. Open Cup. And they're going to be like, all right, man, it was cool. Next year, they're going to be, probably scrutinized a little more because they're going to have more time together, maybe another player or two. But at the end of the day, like, he doesn't have anything to prove here. It's just him trying to continue building that while he's using these other avenues that MLS and the U.S. are going to provide for him to make sure that he's good, which he is, make sure his family's good. And that's all that matters.
I think the competitor in him, too, sees where Miami's at. And I mean, regardless of the money and the stature and what you're considered as, like, at the end of the day, he got to where he is for that competitive nature. Like, if I was, you want to make the playoffs and go on a run for the last 12 games.
But he also has nothing at the highest level. He has accomplished everything.
Absolutely. That's why he's playing with house money now.
He's playing with house money. Go live in Miami. You're giving your kids and your family this beautiful environment. I'm sure Barcelona, like Andy said, was probably his first choice. But the opportunity that MLS, Inter Miami, Adidas has presented to him, it's like, okay, financially we're good.
Apple.
Beyond good. Apple. He's getting a cut of subscriptions, for MLS season pass. Hello, they took care of him financially, and I get to live in Miami, and I get to still play ball at a decent level, potentially bring trophies to a mostly Latino fan base.
And I get to be with all my friends without having to worry about roster
And I get
rules.
to bring my boys with me. Find the hole. Where do I go live in Saudi? You think I'm going to go live in Saudi? Are you kidding me?
Well, your boy did.
Yeah, he's different.
Your boy's a paid spokesperson for the Saudis.
But he is a completely different entity. He's a completely different person. You know what I mean? Ronaldo.
Yeah, but you don't think deep down he's regretting that decision now?
No, not at all. You know what we're talking about here? Listen, I love my guy. He's from my mom's island. Grew up in the same town as my mom.
Yeah, but here's the thing. The American dollar goes further than the Saudi dollar.
We're not going to get down into the financials of this, but I think you see
when Tom leans back like that, you don't just move on. Let's move on.
No. Let me finish my statement. Here's why I think Messi chose MLS over Saudi Arabia, at least.
I mean,
without Barca,
because Messi also prioritizes his family. He didn't like
money. It's money.
What do you mean money?
I'm telling you, it's money. I'm telling you, it's more.
You don't think the Saudis could have given Messi more money to go there to their league?
$1.6 billion?
Do you understand the amount of money they were throwing at this man?
there's more long-term money investing in America if you're Messi than there is if you're playing for a couple of years in Saudi Arabia.
Potentially, but who's to say in 10 years this league doesn't exist? It's still a league in its infantile stages.
What, MLS?
Yes.
MLS went from a league being where you had to pay $20 million to be an expansion franchise to $500 million.
I understand that, but the rest of the world you don't pay anything. So the Saudis are paying their players, and they have endless amounts of money. You're a news guy.
No, the oil's not going to run out anytime soon. But with that being said,
it's not for the money.
The Saudis will not have a sustainable league. Saudi Arabia is going to end up being like China. China, about 10 years ago, was supposed to be this next up-and-coming
I agree with that. I remember that.
Everybody thought that China was going to take over the world. They had Iniesta come in, Drogba. Oh my God! They're signing all these players. I don't hear anything about China anymore
because it's a completely different circumstance. China was they wanted the big splash signings, and it was mostly guys towards the end of their career. Saudi Arabia is taking guys in their prime right now and giving them money that they would.
In his prime?
No, but he's the face. If you're Cristiano Ronaldo. Are you going to go compete right now at this point in his career as a leading scorer in most leagues in Europe? Probably not anymore, right? We've seen it. He's lost a step. I'm not biased by any means necessary. We saw what happened in Man U. Whatever. It is what it is. So for him, they threw a bunch of money at him. They'll bend rules for him in that country for him, and then now he gets to be the guy that said, I'm the one making all these guys money. I'm the reason why Benzema's getting this. I'm the reason why Conte, who could still be playing top leagues in the world. I'm the reason why, like yesterday, Verratti, another one. Like these guys, now he gets to be the face of like, I'm the reason why you're making $500 million.
Yeah, but nobody's sitting down.
But that's him though. Messi's not that guy.
And watching Saudi Arabian soccer. Nobody's watching Saudi Arabian soccer.
But it does. But you're missing the point. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, he could say all these things, but it doesn't matter. If a tree falls down in a forest and nobody's around, does anybody care?
Oh God. Anyways, long way of saying, Andy, long way of saying, is Ronaldo going to come to Kansas City next season or what?
No, you break it down. Saudi versus MLS. Just don't dismiss it because you don't like the conversation.
But what are you talking about? This isn't even a Saudi versus MLS
the conversation's fine, but then you're going into like analogies. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, we're not doing analogies here.
I think
nobody's watching Saudi Arabian soccer. If a tree falls in the woods and nobody's around, to hear it.
All right, Andy, your take on that?
I think that's important for Messi in Miami, like the eyes, right? Like I don't think Messi was at a point that he wanted to go somewhere that people were not necessarily watching. And Tom does have a point in that where like I see anything that Ronaldo does on Twitter. Like I don't know where I would be able to find the game. I don't know if I would be interested in finding the game. But like I mentioned, now people know that Messi's in MLS. The same people that probably were like, oh, why is MLS only on Apple are now like, maybe I should get the subscription just to see what he does, like just to keep an eye on him. And it's not just Messi. It's the fact that you mentioned his friends. Like I wrote Busquets might be the more important player out of all of them just because of the type of stuff that he does tactically on the field. Like Messi's going to do what he does, but Busquets is going to be the engine. And then you bring Jordi Alba in, it's going to be them two and then Messi in terms of importance. But obviously the way it's perceived is differently. But yeah, tickets are being sold, subscriptions are being ran up. The jersey is damn near impossible to get your hands on now. Like it's unreal, but I think that factors in the decision that Messi's like, it's going to be a whirlwind. And it's easy when it's David Beckham involved, when it's something that has been being talked about for years since, the inception of Inter Miami that just now came into fruition. But these are conversations that Miami ownership had been flying over to Europe to have with Messi's father, with Messi's camp. So it's important in that sense. And in a way, it's almost not surprising. Like I said, if it wasn't Barcelona, Miami did make sense. It was, you get from a point that you were like, this is a pipe dream, this is never going to happen, to now like him being here and then trying to decipher it in a different way. Is like, nah, this was in line for what was going to happen. They just needed to present it the right way, and things had to fall into place.
You were there that Tuesday night. We talked about it on our show last week. It was such a unique experience to watch because I can't recall in any sport that a player coming into a league is broadcast as such a huge event with a billion eyes on it for a Leagues Cup first round play. I mean,
a brand new tournament.
So to put a bow in it, Andy, I mean, it shows the magnitude of this player, and you being there, I mean, it just had to be an incredible thing to watch.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I think people forget also that it's like a temporary stadium. So it's very it's just a very funny atmosphere where like the conversation prior to him was, oh, maybe they should play at Hard Rock. There's, more capacity. And I'm like, this is perfect. This is already like the home of Messi Mania. Like in 2 games, it already has moments. It already has almost like some mystique to it where these celebrities are coming over to Fort Lauderdale to watch. And at the end of the day, like the fans are going to go out there. They've always been supportive of the club, even through bad times. But at the end of the day, it is just Messi. Like people are going to see that, and then everything else is going to stem for that. You see Argentina jerseys all around the crowd. It's almost like, who's playing here? Is Argentina? Is it Inter Miami? But it's just that guy. Like people are moved to tears. People are, trying to do everything they can to get into that stadium. And when you see him doing what he does on the field, along with celebrating with Robert Taylor, like they just scored a Champions League winner, it's pretty amazing that at this stage of his career, he could still be as intrigued. And you guys mentioned the most important thing. He's happy, man. You see him smiling. You see him embracing this. And I think you mentioned the part of him wanting to try to make that playoff run with Miami is also intriguing because Tata says it, we're in a bad place right now, but as long as we have a chance, we're going to try. And they could make a run of this tournament. It's not far-fetched to say that they may be able to win this tournament if things go the right way, but I don't also want to be like, oh my God, this is the best team now because of these, players, because they could run into a really tough opponent and things may be different. And they've also played all their games at home. So maybe if they have to go on the road, it's a little different. That U.S. Open Cup game in Cincinnati, which you guys well know, not many people are going to that stadium and getting any results, is going to be one that's very interesting to watch.
Well, it's going to be interesting, too, because with Messi, with the win from Miami the other night, they're going to host at least one knockout round game. So the next game that they play, that's a home game for them guaranteed. And then I think the semifinals is after that, right? So it's like, yeah, I mean,
I'm ask again, is there a Gillette Messi possibility?
Not right now, no, because the way the table breaks out with the Revs being in second place and Miami finishing first, Miami would have the higher seed. That's if San Luis doesn't.
MLS playoffs, there's a possibility there.
That is true too.
If they go on a run
Playoffs,
here,
yeah.
If they go on
this cup, no shot.
No, I don't. Not at Gillette, at least. Could the Revs play Miami in Miami?
I got family down in
Sure.
Miami. Maybe I'll go meet up with Andy.
No, I mean, we got the plug right here.
That's
Andy
right,
can get us in.
My choice, by the way, to win Leagues Cup, the Philadelphia Union. I think the Philadelphia Union are getting extremely hot right now, and I think
Who are they playing next?
they're off this weekend.
Okay.
So they've got 2 wins. They're going to finish first place in their group, and they'll be first place. They'll be have a high seed in the knockout round. But even before Leagues Cup, Philadelphia has started to figure it out here, and they're one of those teams that you just don't want to see later in the season.
Very good coach.
Very good attack. Solid in net with Andre Blake. They don't make too many mistakes, and especially at home, Philadelphia is just lethal. Lethal at home right now.
And it's perfect time for them. You guys said it a little earlier too. Like this is almost like a warm up for the rest of the MLS season, and we know how Philly gets during these stretches and during these runs. Like if this is a warm up for what could be to come in the rest of the year, then they're going to be right back where they were last year, probably making a run for the cup.
It's going to be a fun rest of the East, I think.
Yeah.
The West
East is going to be tight.
The East is going to be tight.
This is a good time, man. It's just a good time.
Last night was so fun. So we went from the Revolution to Manu and Real Madrid, who had a friendly on ESPN Plus, to the Women's World Cup.
Yep.
It was a night of soccer last night.
The Western Conference is really interesting too. I know we don't spend a tremendous amount of time on the West because obviously
It's the West.
But but
Thanks for coming on the show, Andy.
But while we have Andy here, who does cover a lot of Western Conference stuff, I look at the Western standings. It seems like St. Louis should finish with the 1 seed in that, but you never know how things go.
They're
playing
Still 11 games left.
Yeah, still playing Club America tonight. Real Salt Lake charging up that standings, boy. It's going to be interesting to see where they finish and where LAFC finishes, because I think the drop off for LAFC has been pretty staggering. And a lot of people, maybe it's just because it's Twitter, but I see a lot of people calling for
Nobody
the job
knows better than Andy to tell us.
I've seen a lot of people calling for Steve Cherundolo to be fired from a guy that people thought should have been the replacement for Greg Berhalter to now they want him out in LAFC. What the hell is going on at the bunk?
A few games changes everything in LA, man. It's so funny that this guy won Coach of the Year. Well, should have won, Coach of the Year, and just had these records last season, and they come off a cup and they make a run for Champions League, and now it's like, oh, we got to change the direction. LAFC is going to be fine, and it's also a team in Leagues Cup who's just waiting. They're just waiting for their next opponent because they had to bye in this group stage, so they're going to host probably Austin or somebody else next week, and all they have to do is win a few games, and that's another trophy for them. So LAFC is going to be fine. But yeah, you mentioned the standings in the West. It's no joke. I mean, St. Louis is in first place, and I sat down with Bradley Carnell a few weeks ago, and he's like, we are not acting or thinking that we're in first place right now. He's like, because we know RSL is streaky. We know Seattle's probably always going to have something to say. LAFC is going to be good. And there's just teams in the mix there that are going to, all the Texas teams honestly could give you a run for your money at any given moment, and especially if they're playing at home. So MLS is in a good spot, and I think that this tournament is doing nothing but boosting it. And then, of course, you have one Lionel Messi who creates his own attention and narrative.
You think Minnesota is a team that people should be watching out for in terms of sleepers that could sneak in and make some noise?
Yeah, I think their problem is it was so bad for so long while Reynoso was out. So it was kind of just looking at them and being like, they can't be so reliant on one player. How are they this bad? But Adrian Heath has been around. He knows what he needs to do. He's a good coach. Reynoso has been back and has been absolutely amazing. You could tell how much his quality and his absence was missing on that team. And then they have Pookie now, where they're really molding into this form. And once again, you kind of using this tournament as a little bit of a trial to see how things go. I think I could see them definitely being tough as well.
Last one before we let you go and wrap up the show for this week. Atlanta, Columbus, Nashville. Of those three teams, which one doesn't make the playoffs?
Man, if I had to pick, it would be Atlanta. I honestly, I'm all in on the Columbus might win the cup this year. Like that team is incredible. I think Will Fernandes has done an amazing job.
But aren't they streaky? Isn't there a problem?
They are very streaky. But the thing about MLS is a lot of teams are, and that's why it's funny where the narrative changes. Like I mentioned with LAFC, you could win 3 games and you're great. You could lose a few games, and I was like, but the standings are reflected more so than the quality of play. So that's what happens when you get caught in that mix. It's like, it's not so much that you maybe draw a game or lose a game. It's like, where does that fall in the standings? But if I had to put my money out, putting it on Zelarayan and Cucho and the way they've been playing like before Atlanta, because Atlanta hasn't shown me that they're solid enough defensively to get into these battles. Like, sure, they could score goals. Giacomakis is great. Thiago Almada is world class, obviously, but they need to show defensively that they could be able to stand up some of these fights. And then Nashville's Nashville. They got a new DP coming in. Defensively, they're always going to be great. Hani Mukhtar is MVP caliber for the 3rd season straight in MLS. I think Nashville, if this DP could hit the ground running kind of quickly, is going to be a real tough out.
Man, Andy Deossa, always one of the best. And you, like you said, you mentioned throughout the show, you sit down with everybody in the league. Why don't you go ahead and plug where we can find your content, your social medias? Because
Always.
if you are a fan of this league and you're not following Andy, you're not doing it right.
I appreciate you guys, man. So I love, Yahoo Sports. Just, trying to cover all the things going on in MLS. Twitter is Andy_Deossa, Deossa. My big Messi story, by the time this is out, will probably be out as well. So I just kind of wrote about what we just talked about. The St. Louis piece is coming out a little after Leagues Cup to kind of get ready for the second half or the end of the season. And then we'll see what happens, man. Like, I always got eyes on the Revs. I'm hoping that maybe I could make a trip to Gillette sometime in November for an important game. That'd be fun. But yeah, just trying to keep my feet on the ground and my ears to everything. So I appreciate you guys, and it's always love to come on the show.
We got a 4th chair sitting right over there, Andy. We got a 4th chair.
Yeah, next time you're home, you're in studio with us.
Hey, man, like I was actually talking to some of the Revs people at All-Star break, and I'm like, hey, it's a possibility I might actually be out there early November. So hopefully if things line up, then, we'll make that happen.
For sure, bro. We'll definitely make it happen.
Looking forward to that Tata conversation that you had with him. That's very cool. Very, very freaking cool. So we also have to edit you, too, because you were a bad boy.
My bad. I forgot this was radio, man.
That's all good. Yeah, he's not live.
Recorded. We're good.
Andy Deossa, Yahoo Sports. Thank you for coming on, sir. That does it for us here on New England Soccer Weekly. Mike, thank you. Nick?
Bruce?
Great. Thank you.